the Lone Ranger. A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger. With his fearless Indian friend Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains, led the fight for law and order in the early West. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again. Hi-Yo Silver! Away!
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sand and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'd go sailing. It's far beyond the stars, as before. Happy we'll be beyond the sea, and never again I'll go sailing. Just as before, happy we'll be beyond the sea, and never again I'll go sailing. No more sailing, so long sailing.
Yeah, it's like 1.47 acres.
You yourself do all the fact sheet of this property, or you have somebody?
Our son, who's again in the air on the way back to Hawaii for a few months.
Okay.
He helps
He
you.
helps a lot. But yeah, we
Wonderful.
did all of that. When we moved in here, there was zero in the way of landscaping. It was the cement
Yeah.
and the house and the building and the redwoods. And so we planted everything else and did all of the
Beautiful.
hardscaping and
Nice, very nice.
all of that. And so let's go around this way.
Yeah.
This is kind of nice.
What's the last name? The one that
Full houses.
Yeah. Sue, no.
Sue Leffels. Have you seen that one yet?
Yes, yes, yes. She has the Airbnb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say she has one, but it's a small apartment.
Yeah, so Kathy started doing all this. There was no landscaping, like
Oh,
you
it's
said.
beautiful.
Yeah, these people weren't into landscaping, so we just started working on it. All that was here was those 2 cactus was all that was here.
Wow.
And so we did this, and then we brought in some people.
Agave.
The agave.
I
yeah.
fight trying to kill the one in our yard. You
Oh,
can't
man,
do it.
Those things are wicked.
So our son,
Sure.
our son was
I
in
go
this.
clip all the ends off for the grandkids running around here.
And-
So.
Our son was in his truck a couple of years ago. He got stuck in the mud back there, and it was stuck in the mud so deep. We called it a tow truck, and the tow truck got stuck.
No.
Another tow truck came, and they got stuck. So the third tow truck, with a winch, got him out. So at that step, we then started cutting down trees and put in a driveway, and then we built this deck off the back of the
Wow.
property here
Nice.
to because this is rented. We wanted the area to have for us
Yeah, yeah.
because we were always using this area here. So we built this thing in
Sure.
the back. So we could do our regular grandchildren adventure
Yeah.
without
disturbing
disturbing these people. So we built this thing,
Beautiful.
and we just named it last week. But we added this deck off the end of this property. It ended right here. We added this. It changed the whole
Totally.
place because you
Are
can't
those
hear.
lights?
So we got this. This was just an empty room here.
Oh, wow. Look at the
And-
size of this.
Yeah, this place is amazing.
It's huge.
Yeah. So Kathy does quilting, quilts, and yoga. So this room became the sewing room over here.
Okay.
They see that you have a lot of grandchildren.
So it's just 2 big rooms here, basically.
That's our grandchildren's spot.
We have Kathy makes her quilts in here. You know, she does her quilts and her sewing in here. So just 2 rooms basically, and we live in that other room over there, and that's
Wow.
yeah, and it worked out.
I'm letting
Yeah.
Leroy Hubbard.
Oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. That was your stepdad.
Yes.
He had a good reputation too, I think.
Yeah, he was.
Then there's this over there, plaque on his retirement.
Yeah.
Did he pass?
But,
Did your stepdad pass away?
Years later. When I came in, I met him before he passed away. I met the chief.
How long ago did he?
The quilt show this weekend, actually, that she's going to be in. But yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Yeah.
You are really talented.
She's really good. Kathy's really good.
Oh,
She took
Kathy,
there's
you
a
are
painter.
good.
There's a painter that we knew when we were living there, and Kathy took his paintings, and this is how he does his work. His name is Woody, and Kathy kind of copied his basic.
Coconuts and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was nice. This one ended up at the Grace Hudson Museum in Ukiah. So
Beautiful.
that one I like.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the
There's a
geisha.
theme here
Oh,
as you
This
go
is not
through.
hers. This is one that's not hers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is not hers. She loved it. So, but yeah. So yeah, it really is. And now she's teaching yoga too. Kathy got a certified yoga instructor, so it's kind of like.
there's a lot of them.
There was
Yeah.
this flock of pelicans. There were like hundreds of them. They were feeding out there, and then way down the coast, you see this big chevron of pelicans coming up to join. It's like
Spectacular.
what sort of communication do they have? Because these guys were all the way down the coast, and they're coming up here.
Let's take a look at this. Beautiful. Yeah. He's munching.
Oh, look
que sabi na.
There it goes. There we go. Yeah. Hello.
I'm Tom.
We're here in Fort Bragg. I'm Tom. This is Miss Martha, and we're here with the Gongs. We're Tim and Kathy. They've hosted us. We're having a wonderful time.
Maloney was her name.
Yeah. Kathy Maloney. That was her name. We're glad to be here and enjoy this wonderful weather and a beautiful place where you live. Thank you.
Goodbye.
I am Kathy Maloney Gaughan. It's an Irish name, Gaelic name, and like Vaughan, only with a G. And let's see, graduated from MA in 65. Went to Nativity Grammar School, born and raised. I was born in San Francisco, but certainly raised on the peninsula, Menlo Park, my entire upbringing. And let's see.
You had a fascinating situation with your mother marrying somebody that was prominent?
Yes. My father died when I was in the 8th grade. My mother then was a widow for a number of years. She remarried when I was a junior in high school, and she married Chief Leroy Hubbard, who was the chief of police of Atherton, and he was an absolutely wonderful man. I can't say enough about him. My mom had 3 girls, my older sister Linda, who graduated the year before, my younger sister Judy, who graduated in 73. So he took on the family. He was an absolutely wonderful guy. And I was in that group of juniors who was to be relocated to Ravenswood High School. I think it was bordered by Willow Road, Middlefield, and the San Francisco Creek. That area of Menlo Park was to be relocated to Ravenswood High School. My mother didn't like that, and so she sent me to Holy Cross High School in Mountain View for my junior year. And then she and Roy Hubbard got together. They were both widows, and married, I think, in 1964. 1964. March 4th.
Okay.
And so we moved back into the Menlo-Atherton area, and so I completed my senior year at MA and graduated from there. We lived in the what is currently the Menlo-Atherton, currently the Atherton Library. That building was the chief of police residence at the time, so we lived there for about a year and then bought a house over on Normandy Lane in Atherton and lived there. That was the family home until about 2 years ago. My sister still lived there. A couple of years ago it finally was passed on to the next resident. And so, let's see, after high school I went to San Jose State, majored in nursing, lasted 3 years in nursing, loved everything until I got into the hospital and realized, no, this is not for me. A little late realization. So it took me an extra year to graduate. I transferred over to speech path and audiology, and during that time became interested in the audiology end of it more so than speech path. And when I graduated then, I became very interested in teaching deaf and hard of hearing children. So after I graduated with that degree in speech path and audiology, I explored programs for teaching deaf and hard of hearing children, and there were a number of them. I applied to Boston University and to San Francisco State. I was accepted to both and decided, well, Boston sounds like something really different and fun. I had spent very little time out of the state of California, so I went to Boston. Had a little difficult transition there, getting everything settled, but eventually got settled in, made some wonderful friends there, lifelong friends, and after I graduated from that program, which was an MED in the education of the deaf and hard of hearing. I taught for a year at the Rhode Island School for the Deaf in Providence, Rhode Island, rather.
Sure.
And then homesick for California, came back, got a job down in Southern California, Costa Mesa, Newport District. Taught in Newport Beach for about 3 years, and loved it down there for a while. But then, if you can imagine, this was in the early 70s. I thought it was too trendy, even in this, it seems ridiculous now, but at the time it seemed too trendy.
Sure.
So I moved to, I quit that job and I moved to Tucson with a good friend of mine. And we had her name is Barbara. She and I were friends since Nativity School. And she was a roommate at San Jose State, and our mutual roommate, her name was Bonnie, had moved to Hawaii, was living there with her new baby and husband, and gave us these just beautiful accounts of how Hawaii is wonderful, come. And so we did. We left, Barbara and I, we left Arizona, bought one-way tickets to Hawaii, and we moved to this little town where our friend Bonnie was, Ke'au, which was on the Hilo side of the Big Island. And life began all over again in Hawaii. I eventually met my husband there, and who was also from the Bay Area. We sort of circled each other. I grew up on the peninsula, he grew up on the East Bay in Berkeley, and then he lived down in Corona Del Mar. A few years later, I was in Corona Del Mar in Newport. So we were kind of like orbiting each other before we ever met. But we met in this little tiny town on the Hilo side of the Big Island. And so we eventually, we got married in Atherton, in that house on Normandy Lane. It was a wonderful ceremony. Music was wonderful. My sister played the guitar for our wedding. And then we went back to Hawaii. Our 3 children were born there, all in the old Hilo Hospital, which was an old TB sanatorium, and converted to a hospital. And so we lived on the Hilo side, we lived out in the Puna district, we lived up in Volcano Village, we lived in downtown Hilo, and my husband had a second-hand business there, Gon's Emporium, buy, sell, trade, talk story. It was a great business at the time, people moving in and out of Puna all the time. So, you move to Puna, Hawaii, people have this ideal of Hawaii and how it should be, and then they get there and they realize it's not all palm trees and everything. The woman wakes up with a spider in her hair, she freaks out. They sell everything back and they move back to the mainland. And it was like that out there, but it was absolutely beautiful. Wild orchids growing everywhere. It was gorgeous. So we were there. We moved up to Volcano Village, and then things changed. My husband got out of that business, got a job over on the Kona side, the lee side of the island, and not so much rain. Hilo, a lot of rain, the windward side. Lee side, Kona. Kona means dry. Kona means desert. So we were there for, many, many years, since 1987. And I was a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. My husband then worked at the hotels. Our 3 children were in school and growing and thriving. There was Kelly, who was born, he was born in 77, and Sarah born in 82, and Matthew born in 84. And we're all just living and working in Kona rather.
Okay.
We moved around a couple times, finally had this, lovely house. And let's see.
How'd you move here?
Okay, well, 35 years we lived in Kona, or in Hilo, in Hawaii.
Sure.
Most of those years in Kona. And when it came time to retire, I retired in 2011.
Okay.
And we both Tim and I, my husband and I, realized that while we loved Hawaii, it was time to leave. For one reason, then all our kids had left. They were all on the mainland. None of them were coming back to Hawaii. And what's paradise without family, yeah? So we knew that we were going to leave. So I started at least a year in advance, start to pack up my classroom. I was doing mostly administration by then. I wasn't in the classroom anymore. I'd been doing admin for about, 10, 15 years before we left. And we just packed up the house and rented it, and came over to California, going to move back in with my sister, back on the Normandy Lane Atherton residence for a while. And while we figured out what we were going to do. And so we moved into San Diego. We went to San Diego. Our son was living down there. We visited with them, waiting for the cars to come over from Hawaii, and a little bit of a delay there. We finally came up to Atherton, and then we start looking for a place where we're going to live. And we looked all around the Bay Area, further north into Santa Rosa and Sebastopol, Petaluma, farther north into where we are now, which is in Mendocino County in Fort Bragg. Our daughter, Sarah, was living up here with her family and children. So we figured we're going to go where one of our kids are.
Sure.
And that's what we did. So we ended up here in this lovely community of Fort Bragg. And it's, we just looked it up, 85-foot elevation. We're about less than a mile from the water.
Beautiful, beautiful little harbor.
Beautiful, beautiful little
And
harbor.
today is a special day for you.
Oh, today is June 20th. It's our 36th, is that right, Timmy? 36th wedding anniversary. And Tim and I, and our anniversary is always one of these things sometime in the middle of the day we go, hey, whoa, it's June 20th. It's our anniversary. It's nothing that we have a lot of hearts and flowers about. We just acknowledge it as it goes by. So it was...
Quick question. At MA, who were some of your friends? Who did you hang out with?
Oh, mainly Candy Esplin. And there were some people there from, mainly Candy Esplin. Again, I was gone for that junior year, so I had a little break in the action there. I was there freshman and sophomore, and so some of my relationships sort of dissolved over that year I was gone. But then I came back senior year. But, Candy was a long-term friend, and pretty much her and some older students from the year before. My sister was in the class of '64, and so some of her friends. But that was pretty much it. So, since being in Hawaii, or since being here in Fort Bragg, I have completed my yoga instructor training, because I started in Kona probably about 15 years ago. But in that, I couldn't really leave island to complete it because of family and job and all of that sort of thing. So I started my training, but was never able to complete it.
Sure.
So I get here, and there's this lovely studio in town that was offering a teacher instructor course. So I started that and completed that, and now I have about 3 gigs around town in yoga. I have at one yoga studio, and then at the local CV Star Community Center Recreation Center. I teach there a couple times a month. And then at Sherwood Oaks, which is the old folks' home, if you will. And I have met some just wonderful people there. Really, it's a very special time for me every week to meet with those people.
That's nice to do that.
They're all like 90 plus.
They probably appreciate you showing up.
Well, they do, in fact, and I really appreciate being with them. Being with them, it's a very interpersonal moment. We do a lot of range of motion, and certainly we're not down on the floor doing poses and sun salutations or any of that with those group, but a lot of range of motion, and they're just very appreciative. So
you also have a hobby in quilting. Can you tell us about that? I do. It's one thing I started back in Kona. I used to spend all my weekends doing yard work, and that got old after a while. I thought, do something else. Actually, I saw this quilt at it was a landscape quilt. It wasn't a geometric quilt, but a landscape quilt that I saw at up in Holualo, which is an artist community up in Mauka in Kona. And it was this beautiful
quilt. I thought, oh man, that is lovely. I think I would love to do that. And so I became interested in that, and then started doing mostly landscape quilts. I don't do too many of the geometric ones, just pretty much the landscape, the picture quilts, you know.
Well, thank
So
you
that's been
very
really
much.
fun.
Thank you for letting me and Marta be here with you and with Tim.
Oh,
We've had
you're
a
welcome.
lovely meal, and we enjoy this stay here.
Tom, it's been wonderful having you and Marta here. We've had a wonderful day. We've gone around.
You've been very kind to us. I mean that.
Well,
Thank you. Go on. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm Kathy's husband, and I met a lot of you folks at the reunion a couple years ago. Had a wonderful time, and I want to say to you, if any of you want to come up north here to Cleon, Fort Bragg, Mendocino area, and you want to stay at the Chateau Cleon, where Tom is staying tonight, he has a family rate. Tom has got a family rate. So all you have to say is Tom or MA or anything to do with Atherton, and you'll get the family rate discount. And this is to all of you graduates down there, and we're really looking forward to Lake Tahoe. For all you folks that make it, we are with you. We hope you're all doing fine. We love you, and we really are thrilled to have Tom here and his wife, and he has more stories than me, which is really amazing. He has got a lot more stories than I have. So we love you all. Just say the magic word: Atherton, Tom, reunion, Lake Tahoe, family discount. We'd love to see you. God bless.